Hi everyone, it's Christina, or should I say Princess Jasmine, and I have a very special video for you today. I am in San Francisco right now. I'm going to be going to a special event hosted by Kendra Scott. I am an active participant in a group called the Peter Pan Foundation, and we put on special performances for children specifically with cancer. We are doing a fundraiser today to help raise money for our organization, so to pay for singing lessons, to pay for costumes, and anything else that our students would need to help feel their best when they're out performing for all of these children. Come along with me. Today, I'm gonna show you how I've created this really beautiful and glam Jasmine look, and then we're gonna head over to Kendra Scott for the event. So let's go. I am so excited to take you guys with me today. It's gonna be super fun. It's gonna be in Walnut Creek, California, which is this cute little town here in the East Bay. I grew up in the East Bay, so it's just like a really fun little way to come back home, but then also to obviously be part of a really great cause. You guys are gonna have to bear with me. It's been a really long time since I've done a makeup video, but basically what I'm doing right now is I'm just priming my eyes. I always do eyes first in case there's any fallout and it all gets on my face, so then I'm not having to like redo my face, you know what I mean? And I apologize for my nasally nose. I've been dealing with a cold for the last couple weeks. Even my last video too, I was rewatching it and I was like, oh my God, I sound so nasally, but it's all good. So first order of business obviously is gonna be shadow. And I really like this palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's the Soft Glam palette. So if you have, I mean, really any skin tone, because it's a lot of like frosty pinks and golds. I wanted to go for a more kind of like goldy kind of look because it's Jasmine. Obviously, she always has a look. A lot of people ask me how I got into Disney. So I would love to share that story with you guys today while I'm kind of getting ready. So I got into Disney when I was a really little kid. I think because my parents are immigrants. So they came to the States my dad came in the 70s, my mom came in the 80s. And, you know, they're new parents. They didn't really know like what kids were into, you know, so they were just kind of like what's popular right now? And what was popular was Disney. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? I was born in 87, so I grew up with The Little Mermaid. That was my absolute favorite movie. Actually, no, I take that back. My absolute favorite movie was probably The Sword and the Stone, just in terms of repetition. Like, I just watched it a lot. But obviously, I loved The Little Mermaid because Ariel was just such an inspiring character. And I think when I was a small kid, I've always had this like really independent way about me. I've always been really opinionated. And I think Ariel just kind of like brought that out in me. Even when I was a kid, like sometimes I would definitely quote Jasmine, like, I'm 5 years old. You don't know what it's like. And I think Arthur in The Sword and the Stone, he says something kind of along those lines too. Like, you know, and so I think I was really inspired by just seeing these protagonists really fighting for themselves and advocating for themselves, because I've always been that way too. You can ask my parents when it comes to getting my driver's license. What else did I fight with them for? Going to school dances. Oh my gosh. I was like a Disney character through and through as I was growing up. Like really, I was pushing my parents to the brink. Like, you don't know what it's like today. And then making deals with sea witches. I never did anything like that. I was always a very good kid. I mean, in terms of like deals with the sea witch, I mean, all I could really think of when I was a senior in high school, this was my last year of high school, you know, and I was just like, dude, come on. I haven't gone to any parties. I was such a good kid. I never went to any parties. The first and last party I ever went to was my senior year of high school. It was Halloween. And I think I was just like, no, I'm going. I want to go. This is like my last shot. And you know what? I got in a lot of trouble that night, but I do not regret it at all, because that literally was the one and only party I ever went to. So I have no regrets. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this. My mom watches my videos. She's like probably rolling her eyes like, oh my God, my daughter, what has happened? Let's blend this out a little bit, so we don't have any harsh lines. This is really important. Whenever I give people makeup tips, I always say make sure that you blend. It honestly, like color goes a long way, but blending goes even farther. You please trust that blending goes way farther than the color. I think I might do a combination. You guys see how there's this gold color and then there's this like kind of pinky sultry color? I'm like super tempted, but then I'm also like, you know what? No, we're not going to experiment right now. Sometimes I really want to, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. Let's get this little brush for a little more precision. So how did I get into Disneyland? Well, to be honest, because I grew up in the Bay Area, I grew up a California girl, but we only took maybe 1 or 2 trips to Disney. We did 1 trip to Disneyland when I was a kid, and then we did 1 trip to Disney World when I was, oh no, my parents took me to Disney World when I was a baby, but that doesn't really count. We did a larger trip when I was a teenager, so when I was like around 13, 14. And that was it. Those were the only trips that I'd ever taken until my adult life when I actually moved down to LA. I might have taken like a trip or 2, like kind of in between, but I didn't religiously start going until like the last couple of years. And I'll be honest, when I first moved down to LA, it was a really weird time for me because it was COVID. So it was 2021, COVID was going on. I also newly got divorced a few years prior, and I hadn't really dealt with any of my feelings about it. I just kind of, I just kept my head down and I worked out a lot and I just kept myself busy with a lot of things, but I never saw a therapist. I just kind of like breezed over it and I was like, oh, I think I'm good. But when I came down to LA, that's when everything kind of started hitting me and I was like, oh my God, like I'm actually not okay. And the park is only 40 minutes away from where I live. So I started going just, for fun. And I was like, this is such a healing place. And it's not even so much about like the food and the characters and all of that is great. But when you take a minute to just stop and think about like what all of this is, like Walt Disney created Disneyland as a place where young and old, kids and adults, people regardless of your religion, of your skin color, where everyone can just come together and just enjoy a moment in time. And that's literally what Disneyland is. Obviously, there's all these other things to help you enjoy the moment in time, like all the merch and all the pretzels and the churros. But at the end of the day, he actually created Disneyland also where it's away from freeways. Like you can't see the outside world when you're inside of Disneyland. And the whole purpose for that is to really bring you to this other reality where you can escape your day-to-day, where you can be a kid, where you can just be yourself. And I really felt that when I was going very early on when I was living in LA. I was able to feel like myself in the sense that I was no longer hiding behind a mask, because I feel like a lot of my life prior to that, my parents are fairly traditional. And so I grew up like, traditional Indian background. But there was always this part of me that just wanted so badly to express myself, to have this like self-expression. But I didn't know how, I didn't really know how. I didn't know like what mode, what avenue was going to be right for me. I just always kind of did what I thought was expected of me. But these last couple years of just being at Disney and just being around the things that I love, and I grew up loving Disney movies, like that was kind of like my North Star. And that's what got me into creating this YouTube channel was that point. It was, hey, I've found such a big part of myself like through Disney. If I can help even just one person like kind of help find themselves like through Disney as well, that would be huge. So that's why I have this channel. It's obviously because I love Disney and I want to share that with you guys, but it's also to help inspire you to find yourself too, because it's scary when you don't know like what direction you're supposed to go in. You feel lost and you're not even really sure like who you are, but it all becomes so clear when you're kind of going in that direction. And so I found, at least for me, Disney kind of helped me like go in the direction that I'm supposed to go in. So yeah, maybe it'll work for you too. This is like the hardest part ever. I love a nice wing. I naturally do wings like, when I'm out and about. So the fact that I get to do a wing for this character is just like, I've always felt like this very close connection with Jasmine, like obviously because of the way I look, but also like just her sass in the movie too. Like all the princesses all have some degree of sass, and those are always the ones that I've resonated with the most. Like Jasmine has sass, Meg has sass, Esmeralda. Who else? Cinderella actually has some sass too. Like the way she talks about Lucifer in the movie, I'm like, dang, Cinderella, like you tell him, girl. She's got some sass too. Who else? Not Alice. Alice is so sweet. Not Aurora because she's asleep for half the movie. I have to watch Peter Pan again. I'm not quite sure about Wendy. I think Wendy's really sweet too. But yeah, like I've always resonated with all of the princesses that have a little bit of spice to them, you know? Next, we're gonna do some falsies. I mean, you can't be Jasmine without falsies. That's all I gotta say. My favorite season at Disneyland is Christmas time. It's obviously the best. It's also the most packed at the parks, but it's so magical. Like if you could only go to Disneyland one time a year, I would highly suggest just biting the bullet and just going during Christmas time. It does get crazy, but if you plan out your day, then you shouldn't have any issues. Like you make a list of all of the things that you really want to do. You make 3 lists, 3 things that you really want to do, things that you would like to do, and then things that it's like, it'd be nice, but you know, not as huge of a priority. So you've got to prioritize all of the things because that's the only way you're going to make sure that you at least get through like a portion of what you want to do, because it's tough. I went last year on the day of the candlelight processional. This was before I had my YouTube channel. So I went with a girlfriend who she hadn't been to Disney in a really long time. And so she was like, all right, well, I want you to plan the whole thing. So I was like, okay. So we had an itinerary literally from, I think we got there at maybe around like 8:30. From 8:30 all the way until the park closed. Like we were there for so long. But we did pretty much everything on the list. The only things that we didn't do, I think we didn't get beignets and we didn't go on Rise of the Resistance. But I think in the moment I was just like, we're not gonna have time. We actually saw the candlelight processional too. So if you don't know what the candlelight processional is, it has been a tradition ever since Walt opened the park. So they have this really grand choir come out. They usually have a celebrity that narrates the entire program. And then they just sing all these beautiful Christmas carols. The tree is lit up. Everyone watching is basically singing too. It is so, so magical. It's only one day. And is it one day? It's 2 days. I think it's only 2 days. It's Saturday and Sunday. And so if you have the opportunity to go, like if you're at the park and it's happening, like try to stick around and see it. Like it's definitely worth seeing at least once in your freaking lifetime. It is challenging. Like even my friend and I, when we were waiting, we asked a cast member and we were like, how long is the wait? And they were like, it's going to be 3 hours. And we were like, we don't have 3 hours to freaking wait. So we took a risk. We went off and we did a bunch of other things. And so we did that. We waited because there's 2 shows in the night. We decided to do the second show. So we were taking another risk. We were like, all right, we're going to try to see the second show. And we're walking around trying to find the line. We found the line for standby. And right when we found the line, they were like, we're closing the line. And we were like, oh my God, I guess it's just not going to happen. So we just kind of threw our hands in the air and we were like, I guess we could go get a pretzel. Like that's what's next on the list. And then we were walking by this roped off area and there was room. So we were like, to the people that were standing there, we were like, can we actually watch with you guys? And they were like, yeah, sure. So they like let us in and we were like, oh my God, we are actually watching this thing. And we actually got a really good spot too. I couldn't even believe it. It was so wild. And Brie Larson was the narrator. So we got to see Brie Larson. It was amazing. So the key to putting on false eyelashes, I've found the key, is you got to put a really, really small amount of glue on the lashes. And then you've got to wait about 10 to 15 seconds for it to get tacky. And then you carefully place it in the middle of your eyelid. And then you position the corner and then you position the outer corner. Does that make sense? I've got to do it with the mirror. And I need both hands. I'm sorry. Did I mention I'm an amateur? Mission accomplished. Okay. Now I'm just going to go very carefully, very thin layer of black in the waterline. And then I always always, 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 I love lining my eyes with just a little bit of highlighter. So I'm just gonna go inner corner. It just makes your eyes pop a little bit more. And I'd say for any princess look, not just Jasmine. I think you could do this for any princess because all the princesses have really, really big, beautiful eyes. So I think to really like make your eyes like stand out a little bit more, like a little bit of highlighter is always a good thing. So now we're gonna prime the skin. So priming is very important because what it does is it sets a nice base for your foundation. So we're gonna do this very quickly because your girl's running out of time. And I want to take you guys with me to Kendra Scott. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys a little bit about what we're doing today. So we're going to get this beat down, and then we're going to GTFO. Oh, I just realized I forgot something. We got to do brows. There we go. Get some nice fluffy brows to go with our princess look. So I want to go back to what I was saying earlier about how Disney has helped me get on track and figure out the direction of my life. It can be really hard sometimes when you're trying to figure out like which direction you're supposed to go in, and you know, how much of your hobbies can you incorporate in your job, and because you want to love what you do, you know. What you do is pretty close to sleeping and eating, you know, like if you're going to spend so much of your time and energy on what you do, then make sure you enjoy it. And that I really struggled with that for a long time. I was making a lot of money because I worked in tech, and yeah, I did really well for myself, but it just wasn't making me happy. You know, the money was there, but you can make money doing a lot of things, but there are very few things that will make you money where you are actually like really happy, like doing what you do. So that's where I was like, okay, I need to really like go back to the drawing board and figure out like, well, what am I doing with myself? I would love to know, like, tell me down in the comments, like, what do you do? Does it bring you joy? And how did it find you? Or how did you find it? And I think there's so much pressure on kids, you know, when it's like, hey, we don't really know ourselves when we were in high school, and even when we're 18, it's like we just get this taste of freedom when we're 18, when we go away to college or where we go off and do our own thing, military, travel, whatever. But we don't really have like any of that freedom when we're younger, but then we're expected to just kind of like know when we're 18. Like that just doesn't really make sense to me. Because I didn't know anything when I was 18. All I knew was that I wanted freedom from my parents. That was like all I knew. And here I am now at 37, finally like figuring out what I want to do with my life, with my career. But that's only because now I have like a way better understanding of myself. But yeah, it takes people like different paces, you know? Like not everyone's going to have it figured out at a certain time. And I think that it can be really, really hard for people because we have all this pressure, you know, from our parents, and then we have pressure from our friends, our peers, you know, we want to keep up with our peers. If all of our peers have figured out that they all want to go to med school and they all want to take the same classes, like, oh my God, yay for you guys. Well, what if I'm like the weird friend that doesn't want to do that? It's like so hard, you know? But I think it all comes down to like what you want as an individual. Because there's some people that are totally okay with just doing what everyone else is doing, as long as those people are around, you know, like as long as like my friends are around, as long as my family's around, like people are okay with doing that. And that's okay. You guys, I have to be honest. It's been a while since I've used a beauty blender because I usually use a brush, but I wanted a more kind of like flawless, seamless kind of look because for princesses, they have perfect skin, they have perfect eyes and everything, and we don't want to see any of your wrinkles or imperfections. And that's the one thing about being a princess where it's like, but no, I get it. It's part of the magic, you know, because when we think of Jasmine, we think of her as this like very regal, you know, princess with no imperfections. But hey, Jasmine gets older too, you know. Now, if I started to have grays, like I don't have any grays yet, but if I did, then I would definitely kind of play to that a little bit more. But then I probably wouldn't even be Jasmine anymore. It would probably be time for me to be like Lady Tremaine or Mother Gothel. I would totally do Mother Gothel. I actually have not done her. Maybe I'll do her next year. Maybe for Halloween next year, I'll do Mother Gothel. For Oogie Boogie Bash, oh my gosh. Okay, if you didn't go to Oogie Boogie Bash this year and you wanted to, or you were on the fence, yo, you missed out. Now, I'm part of a lot of subreddits, and a lot of people were kind of like talking smack about it. They were like, oh, there weren't as many treats and blah, blah, blah. There weren't as many this and that, and the waits are really long. And I was like, it was my first time, and I thought it was great. I was like, there's tons of treats. And I mean, yeah, maybe if you're comparing it to previous years, then yeah, maybe for you it like sucked, but not for me. I thought it was great. I thought there were plenty of treat trails, because look, you don't need that much freaking candy, okay? When it comes down to it, nobody eats that much candy. It's not that good for you. So even if you just get a little bit, like, yo, it was super fun. I loved it. I can't wait to do Oogie Boogie Bash next year. It's definitely one of those things where like you can definitely take your kids. There's so many kids that go, and it was just, it was so fun. I loved the characters. Hades was great. Who was my favorite? Hades was probably my favorite because you got to like really interact with him. Sid was cool too. He like really makes fun of you, but I think that that actor like only has his lines, and if he doesn't deviate from his lines. Like he doesn't really do any crowd work. But Hades did, and Hades was really fun. Like there was this whole line of people, because they have you like kind of walk in this line, and then you get to like stand in front, and then you can kind of talk to him, and then you gotta go get your treats and then leave. But yeah, a bunch of people were just waiting there, taking videos of him, taking photos, selfies with him. Like he was so great. I think he was such a great ad this year. I was a little disappointed that there was no Yzma. I thought for sure like, oh, we're gonna get Yzma, Cusco, maybe Kronk, because they kind of teased it at the beginning of the season. But we didn't get them, so I was a little disappointed by that. But hopefully maybe next year. Maybe they were just kind of testing it out to see how popular they would be. But are you freaking kidding me? Yzma? Oh my god, I would love me an Yzma. Coming together! Coming together! So this is a loose powder. And I use a loose powder for princess looks because it's a lot more concealing. It's a lot more opaque. This is definitely not your everyday kind of makeup. This isn't what you want to wear to the office. Unless you are, you know, trying to go for that look. But yeah, if you want like a very glowy, seamless, flawless look, you gotta do the loose powder. We are almost done, and then we're gonna head over to Broadway Plaza where Kendra Scott is. Oh, actually, let me show you. This is actually from Kendra Scott. This is from their last Disney collaboration, and I freaking love this necklace. It is so glitzy, glam. It's perfect for literally anything. Like you could wear it to the park. You could also wear it just kind of like on the regular, like to dinner. And it just goes with everything. It's gold metal. It comes in silver also, but I'm more of like a gold girly, obviously. I'm gonna quickly do a little contour. Oof, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Just to give her a nice rosy finish. And then we'll do the lips and we'll leave. There we go, yay! Okay, we'll do the finishing touch, which is a little bit of lip liner. We're gonna go with a lip liner first. This is my favorite, it's from Sephora. Sephora just always has all the right goods for Princess. And last but not least, I've got a liquid lipstick here. If you take any of the tips that I offered today, the most important one I would say, if you're trying to do a princess look, is, believe it or not, it's the cheeks. You could probably forego everything else, but princesses are all happy, like glowy. Like I would say the most important thing that they all share are cheeks. Here, let me actually show you the blush that I'm using. It's actually a dupe for NARS. If you guys are familiar, NARS makes this classic blush called Orgasm that's super beautiful. It's also really expensive, but I use this one. It's by Milani, and it's called Rose d'Oro, and it's a really great dupe. I've had this for a while, and it just really lasts. It lasts a long time, and it's just really beautiful, so. And that's our Jasmine makeup look. I just quickly did my hair, so my hair is like all set. We are gonna head over to Kendra Scott right now and go do the event.